So, what's up, Skilo? Welcome to the stream. We got Kazi saying, how about Radiant? Obviously, Radiant never got the ASIC miners from Bitmain. And so it definitely turned into, and obviously we had that heated debate with the community lead on Radiant that's live on this channel. You know, I called them out for, you know, the practices of working with the ASIC manufacturers on the background. The fact is Radiant completely lost the trust of the public, and deservingly so. And yeah, Dragon Ball, like Squirrel said, killed Radiant. Dragon Ball and the Radiant developers and community members that were knowingly working with Dragon Ball, that's what killed it, right? And deservingly so, you know. And I had high hopes for Radiant because of the mintable token system with GPUs. I thought, you know, that's a way to add, you know, inherent value or intrinsic value through mining to the token system, to DeFi. And I thought that was a really good idea. Unfortunately, you know, the foundation was built on sand. And when the foundation is built on sand, that's what's going to happen, right? And there's nothing we can really do about it except say, well, that one failed and we got to move on, you know? And it is what it is. I guess there's always still potential for recovery, and maybe we'll see that at some point. Like, obviously Radiant has some good ideas, but that's a big thing to ask people to get over, right? Like, we were actively working with ASIC manufacturers to mine behind everyone's back. And when they released it, those same ASIC manufacturers that had been mining also dumped the coin on the public once they were, well, obviously done getting their pre-orders in for the ASIC equipment. And it's the perfect example. It's an accelerated perfect example of the negative impact of ASICs on any proof of work network, right? It's funny because they got caught, right? Like, we can't explicitly state, you know, I can't explicitly state that the $8 million funding round that went into mining hardware in the early days of kaspa is not the exact same thing, for example, right? Like, I can't, like, because it kind of is. They just didn't get caught, and they conveniently lost the portion of the blockchain that had records of that. So to me, like, it's hard to like go through all of this and be like, you know, not see the hypocrisy in the markets, I suppose. And kind of the reward of the liars, which is pretty much like a ton of the crypto market is like the unethical, immoral individuals seem to benefit the most, the quickest, right? And it's disappointing to see. And I think that's why I think that's where the radicalization of like the Bitcoin maxi comes from, right? I think we've seen that clearly over this cycle too, where we have seen just a ton of people move into that Bitcoin maxi standpoint, where even the GPU miners, the FPGA miners, you know, the other ASIC miners, like even Marathon Digital, which is mining kaspa, they're just liquidating their kaspa into Bitcoin. Everybody's taking their profits from the altcoin mining and dumping it into Bitcoin, and then being like, why isn't there any altcoin season? Well, you're immediately selling it for Bitcoin. So no shit, that's what's going to happen. And the reason that's happening is because there's a lack of trust in the people that are managing these networks. and deservingly so, right? And then it just comes back to the old adage that like Bitcoin doesn't have the people problem, right? And so when you don't have that people problem from you know, developers, etc., and you have that fully established decentralized network, you're a lot safer. And that's why people are moving and dumping everything into Bitcoin. That's why we're not seeing the same strong altcoin performance. On top of that, you know, the first altcoin run up this bull cycle was obviously on Solana and into meme tokens, and all of those collapsed and scared everybody off, right? It's just the way it is. And I think, I just think that that's the biggest problem that the altcoin market faces outside of the Solana issue, right? It really is that, you know, everybody I talk to, they're like, yeah, I'm mining and then putting my profits into Bitcoin, right? Everybody's doing that. And then on the same flip side, then they complain about there not being an altcoin season. And it's like, well, duh, you know, it is what it is. I know Scott's saying we need to develop an L1 proof of work with ethics. Like, good luck on that. The first thing ethically that I think you have to do is go completely anonymous, right? The fact of the matter is like, if I was to do it, you wouldn't know I was doing it. Because the only way you are successful in that path is by following to the T what made Bitcoin successful, right? And I think without that, it's hard to move forward. The problem that Bitcoin has, right, it is also caused by its greatest feature, which is changes are slow, right? Innovation within the Bitcoin network is slow. And that's just the way it's going to be for a long time. You know, that's the way it will always be. But that is why it's successful too. But we'll have to go from there. Well, B-More says Dynex was anonymous. Yeah, it was anonymous, but it was controlled anonymously, right? So there's a big difference between controlled by the decentralized network or anonymously controlled by one party. That's a huge difference, B-More, right? Like a huge difference. And then Christian says, I thought the unofficial coin of soak community is Wart. Obviously, Wart's had quite a few issues and made some very poor decisions that we have covered on the channel, right? But unfortunately, that's every currency out, and you have to give some sort of leniency because at the end of the day, there is the understanding that the human factor is there and humans are going to make mistakes, and that you have to give them enough leniency to be able to correct those. I mean, like point in case, I guess I would say like Ergo with taking over the Ethereum Classic Twitter. You know, I made a big stand on that and stuck to it. It took a year for them to reverse that, but they did reverse that, right? And you have to give people that opportunity to correct their mistakes. Yes, and every dev team makes bad decisions. I've made bad decisions. All of us as humans have made bad decisions, and we have to give people the grace to be able to recover from those, right? At the end of the day. Now, I guess I'm waiting on groceries to get pulled in, so we'll keep talking to chat, and then we'll get into the next topic in a second here. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. If you would like to see more from this particular episode, take a look up here. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support me directly, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com and become a member. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.